everybody, Carl Schoof here from Snorkel.tv, and I'm so incredibly pleased to announce to you the Really Green Club Green Sock membership giveaway contest. Jack of greensock.com has been generous enough to donate to me a bunch of Really Green Club Green Sock memberships that I'm going to be freely distributing to people who promote and engage and participate with Snorkel.tv in the Snorkel sphere. So if you are a Twitter follower, a Facebook liker, a YouTube subscriber, you're instantly eligible to win a random drawing for a Really Green Club Green Sock membership. Each month I'm going to have specific tasks where I will say, tweet about such and such an article for a chance to win, blah, blah, blah. But I'll also be randomly choosing from my various pools of followers and commenters on Snorkel.tv for giveaways. I've already given away 2 pre-contest memberships, which was a lot of fun for people who just for the heck of it, you know, did some nice stuff for me, and I said, hey, here you go. So I really want to give back to the people who have been supporting me. You guys have been awesome. All right, chances are if you've been following me for a while, you're familiar with the Green Sock tweening platform. And every now and then, such as for split text field, I'll go into some items that are membership-only plugins. So I want to get as many of you people as members as possible so that you can do as much as possible with the Green Sock tweening platform. And for this contest, we're giving away the really green version of the membership, which gives you custom ease, dynamic props, motion blur, physics 2D, transform around point, tween proxy 3D, and some others. All right, all of these tools are massive time savers. If you ever use them once, it saves you so much time, it's ridiculous and totally worth the price. But we're giving you away Really Green for free, and Shockingly Green you can get for only $49 if you do win. So in this video, I'm going to run through some of these bonus plugins that you will receive. All this stuff, you could go on the Green Sock site right now and click through the Plugin Explorer and see some demos. I'll talk you through it really quick. I just want to make this demo available so people can easily see what they win. Now, when you do win, we're going to enter you into the Green Sock prize redemption system, and you will be given access to this super secret URL where you can come and get Really Green for free by just clicking join, or you can get Shockingly Green for only $49, which again gives you split text field and liquid stage. So these are the special prices for the contest winners. All right, but if you want to read more about Really Green, just go to clubgreensock.com/club, and if you win, you get Really Green for free or Shockingly Green for only $49. So get engaged, read about the contest, and for the month of May, tweet about the contest for your chance to win. All right, guys, now let's just roll through some of these custom plugins. Most of these can be found in the online plugin explorer or the version that you download whenever you get the latest Green Sock classes. Starting at the top, we have dynamic props. It is a club benefit, so you see it denoted with the club logo here. And dynamic props allows you to dynamically change the ending values of a tween while the tween is running. Typically, when you build a tween, you say it's going to start here, end there, it's going to take 3 seconds, done deal. But with dynamic props, we can constantly be changing those ending values. So in the Plugin Explorer, we have an example where we'll always tween to the mouse, and as the mouse moves, the tween updates to follow the mouse. Very, very cool. All right, next thing we have for a club benefit is motion blur. Now, you do have access to blur X and blur Y with the basic blur filter. But with motion blur, it's more based on the actual physics of the tween to generate the blur. So if it's moving a long distance quickly, you'll see you get this really pronounced blur, and it's also a directional blur, meaning that the angle that we blur in exactly corresponds to the direction that the object is moving. When you do a typical blur filter tween, you're just tweening the blur X and blur Y properties, and you kind of have to try to match them to the angle at which the object is moving, and it rarely looks perfect if you're not moving exactly left to right or top to bottom. But now, since this is a fast tween, you get this very pronounced blur. If I slow this down to about 4 seconds, just to show you in contrast, you'll see that there is a blur, but it's not as pronounced. And if I'm moving a very short distance over a long period of time, you're barely going to see any blur. But again, if that's going to be a quick tween, it looks like that 0.5 didn't take. Here we go one more time. All right, so totally cool, seamless, directional, and physically accurate blur. Again, for free for all my winners. Physics 2D. So here, in contrast to your typical tween where you say it's going to start here, end there, and take 3 seconds, the Physics 2D allows you to base your tween on physics properties such as velocity, angle, gravity, acceleration, friction. And here's an example of lots of dots being generated using these values. So if I just hit tween right now, you'll see that these balls sort of pop up. The angle at which they pop up is randomized, plus or minus 25 degrees, and the velocity is changing as well, so that you can see that based on the angle, velocity, and gravity that these balls shoot up and then naturally fall down. If I change the velocity, maybe make that something like 50, that's going to drastically change how far up these things go before falling down. So it's a tween that's not necessarily based on time, it's based on how fast, in which direction, and how much gravity is pushing this object down. What's really cool about this demo is if you say populate timeline, what's happening is a timeline light instance is being populated so that I can pause this whole thing and then also reverse it all back. Play with these values, you get some really cool effects, all right? And again, you get all the code that you need to build an example like this, all of the code. So let's close this out. And then you also have physics props, which is a little bit pretty much the same, but for X and Y, you have separate velocity, acceleration, and friction. And for this single object, you can see that we gave it an X velocity of 50, but a Y velocity of negative 260, and an acceleration of 300. So you can mess with these numbers here and get a lot of different tween styles. You know, if you think Angry Birds, where you pull the bird back on the slingshot, these are the types of values that you could pass into a tween. Let's say there's no X velocity, reset. So you'll see that it doesn't move left to right at all. So that would be if you maybe pulled the slingshot back at a tight angle, your bird would go straight up in the air and then come straight down. But if we add some X velocity, it's going to tween over a little bit, and we could increase that velocity to maybe 200 and reset and do a tween. There you go. So another cool physics-based tween. Scrolling down, we have transform around center, which allows you to take any display object and set its registration point in the center, regardless of where that registration point may have been in the IDE, or if you loaded an external asset and the registration point is in the top left-hand corner, well, then it automatically will tween around the center. So this demo says the registration point is really in the top left-hand corner, but using transform around center, we can transform around the center point. A much better explanation of this and more feature-packed plugin is transform around point, where you can programmatically set the registration point to be wherever you want. So let's say you loaded this image into a container display object, and naturally the registration point is the top left-hand corner. Well, that's the kind of scaling you would get. But with transform around point, we can set a new point for where the transformation should take place. So I can say, you know what, let's put the registration point down here, and then when I tween, it shrinks down to that point. If I bring it into the center, then it will shrink around the center point. This plugin alone is worth the price of admission. Now, if the price of admission is free, you have, you know, what can you lose by saying, I liked an article on snorkel.tv? Nothing at all. So those are the basic plugins. We also get access to the custom ease builder, which is a member benefit. And let's just say you don't like the built-in bounce or elastic or quad.easeout tweens. You want something totally specific. Well, you have this chart here where you can curve this line to show the relationship of the percentage or the value of the tween that's completed over time. So I can say, you know what, I want immediately the tween to overshoot its target and then also go back down to where it began. So I get a little preview here of this dot moving. And And you'll see I overshoot, come back to the beginning, and then go to the end. So that's a pretty extreme custom ease that I've built. I use this quite a bit for maybe my own back ease out, where I want to overshoot by a very specific value at a certain time. So here you'll see I'm going to overshoot greatly, very quickly, and then slowly come back to where I should end. So that's my custom ease. All right, very cool. So this tool builds in ease with all the values of that curve, and then you can apply that ease to a tween. Okay, and you have all these sample code right here. In addition to all this, and we're talking just Really Green, these are the plugins and classes that you will win and get for free. We also have Tween Proxy AS3, which allows us to do very basic skewing in tweens. Again, skew X and skew Y are not basic movie clip properties. There's a whole bunch going on behind the scenes here. If I take this registration point and drag it up here and skew X of 30, you'll see that it skews around that point. You may also notice that as it's skewing, the object seems to scale down a little bit. If I use the skew X2, the natural scaling of the object will be preserved. I don't want to go into many heavy lifting details here. If I want to scale X around this point, again, it's going to shrink down to that custom registration point. Now, we also have Tween Proxy 3D, which allows us to do the same sort of stuff, but also adds the addition of rotation X, Y, and Z. So just very quickly, if I drag the registration point over here, and I say, let's do a rotation Y of 90, it's going to flip back around that point. And you'll also notice that there's a little bit of skewing applied there. Let's reset that and hit tween. So now I'm doing the rotation around that center point. Move it over here and tween. So we have the dynamic positioning of registration points that can be used in 3D effects. Furthermore, maybe we just want to do skew X around that point and then also add a little rotation in there, tween. So you can get these really cool, mega distorted tweens by combining the rotation and the skewing around custom registration points. So there's Tween Proxy 3D. So everything I just showed you is part of the Really Green Club Green Sock membership. And again, we're going to have a ton of winners in the next few months. So please, follow on Twitter. It ain't going to kill you. On Facebook and YouTube. And if you get in early, you have a good chance of winning, because I really don't have that many followers on all these services. I have about 300 people with all the services combined. So I look forward to you guys participating. Thank you so much for the support up to this point. I haven't mentioned it yet, but we just passed my 1-year anniversary. I'll have a post on that, and I'm so excited about what's to come in the future. Now, not to do a hard sell here, but some of you are going to be interested in maybe becoming shockingly green for $49. So if you still have the patience, I'm just going to talk quickly about what you will get in addition for only $49 when you win this contest. And we have split text field, which I've done a tutorial on, which shows you how you can take any dynamic text field and break it apart into words, lines, or characters and animate through each one of those objects. So a very basic example would be to take a text field and tween each individual character. And you'll notice that super cool sort of 3D effect that's happening there. Well, we're just looping through all the characters in that text field and adding some blurring and some math and some random rotation and fun stuff like that. If we do words, we break apart all the words and they explode really cool like that. And if you'll see here, this demo where they're all shooting up, blurring, twisting, this is using Motion Blur plugin and the Physics 2D plugin. And again, if you are a Shockingly Green member, you will have access to all of those plugins, and you have this sample code that Jack gives you where it shows you how to loop through everything and build this exact animation on any text field. And again, you get all that for 50 bucks. Insane. For lines, here you go, each line tweens individually. So split text field, I said it 1,000 times, even if you paid $100 to become Shockingly Green, what's that? 2 or 3 hours of your time if you're starting out using Flash? and it would take you months to program something like this. So you can't argue the value. Now we also have Liquid Stage if you go the shockingly green route, and Liquid Stage allows you to pin your objects to certain areas of the stage that if your browser or whatever container is housing your Swift movie gets resized, you can keep things in perspective or proportional positioning. So that's probably not the right words, but anyway, here we have this series of pins in the browser window, correct? And what I'm going to do is say, let's drag him over here and keep him a few pixels away from this pin. Now when I resize this window, you'll see that he always stays stuck to that pin. And I'm going to make my ease duration 1 second, and you'll see now that as I resize the browser, come on browser, that we have that animation of him always bouncing in or elastic ease out to that position. If I bring him over here and I say, you know what, maybe this is my logo and I want it locked up always to the top left-hand corner, again, as I resize the stage, he's not going to move. If I want to keep him in the bottom right-hand corner, activate that pin, and you'll see that that object always stays down there, and there's that nice little bounce tween that we have here. Included with all this Liquid Stage stuff, we also have Liquid Area, which allows us to dictate when a container resizes how its contents are going to fill that container, okay? So here, this green area here shows me the container that this image is in. I'm going to say the scale mode is going to be proportional inside, okay? So that's the proportional scaling of this object, and I'm going to center it. And now when I resize this container, even though that green area shrinks, you'll notice that the proportions of this object stay the same. If I go really big, again, that green container scales and the object grows with it. What I'm going to do here now, though, is say, you know what? Let's scale the width only. So now it stretches width-wise. I can align it to vertically to the top. And now, again, as I resize the browser, it always fills in the complete width and stays locked up to the top. So there's a huge number of different permutations you can do as far as scaling and positioning within an area. Now, if you start thinking of doing mobile app development where you have screen sizes and various screen resolutions, a tool like this is going to be invaluable so that your UI, your interface can resize and reposition itself based on maybe the aspect ratio of the device, whether it's in landscape or portrait mode, and also the size of the device, so everything can scale nicely. So that's just my 2 cents on becoming shockingly green. But again, I'm here really to push you guys getting involved and becoming really green for free and getting these plugins that are going to tremendously boost your potential as a Flash developer. So thanks again, guys, for everything, and I look forward to announcing the winners each month. All right, have a great day.